And I'm also going to mute everybody just to, oops. Okay, I hope that has worked. Every so often I forget how to use Zoom after doing it for years and years. Anyway, thank you all for joining the Wild Ride launch webinar. That's hard to say, actually. Could be the Wild Wide launch webinar. And for your interest in the third annual PWRDF Wild Ride. So we are going to have a few things happening. We are scheduled for 90 minutes. We will have a couple of times for Q&A during the meeting. So if as you're listening to the presentations and you have questions, you can either pop them into the chat, or we will be doing a Q&A where you can use the raise hand button to ask to be unmuted or to unmute yourself and ask questions. We'll have a couple of sessions for that. We will be hearing a little bit about what's in store for the 2024 Wild Ride. Then Naba Gurun, my colleague, will be sharing a little bit about our work with refugees and internally displaced people. And we have a recorded interview with Naba and Joel Kelling from the Anglican Alliance, and it's recorded because Joel was unable to join us for the meeting today, but really wanted to hear what he had to say, so that will be shared. I'll talk a little bit about what's in store, as I mentioned, and Janice is going to just sort of walk us through using the website to get registered and creating and updating your fundraising pages. And then we'll have some time for discussion and to maybe share what people are doing. As I said, please feel free to enter into the chat any questions that come your way. And if you want to, as Joy has already done, pop into the chat what you might be thinking about for your wild ride. We can chat about that at the end as well. So why don't I start by introducing Suzanne Rumsey, our Public Engagement Coordinator, to offer our land acknowledgement for today.
Thanks, Kim. And those of you who know me know I like maps. And the Diocese of Toronto has a wonderful land acknowledgement that actually is a visual acknowledgement as well as verbal. And so I'll just bring that up to share. Can everyone see that? Thumbs up. Thank you. As we gather, we acknowledge that the area we know as the Diocese of Toronto is also the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat. This land is also the subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care peaceably for the resources around the Great Lakes. We give thanks for the stewardship of this land by Indigenous peoples and the continuing presence here of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge the displacement of First Nations people to reserves by a series of treaties, the harm caused by colonialism, and the role our church has played in it. We acknowledge that we have failed to live up to the treaties, and we commit ourselves to seeking a new and honorable relationship with the First Peoples of this land.
Thanks, Suzanne. So I am going to kind of get us started by talking about the 2024 Wild Ride campaign. And Jacqueline, you can share screen now. Okay, so welcome to the 2024 Wild Ride. And this year we're inviting folks to take the 65 for 65 challenge. It's 65 years that PWRDF has been supporting and accompanying refugees and internally displaced people. And our goal is to raise $65,000 in that effort. So the Wild Ride is PWRDF's peer-to-peer campaign. We're inviting you to do the 65 for 65 challenge this year by raising $65,000, and certainly picking any kind of a challenge that has 65 in it would be kind of fun. Our goals for 2024 are to raise $65,000, to have 20 teams and 100 participants. So this is just a modest increase from last year's record-breaking season where we raised $62,000 with 22 teams and 93 participants. So with your continued support and efforts, I'm sure we can make these milestones happen. We invite you to put your stamp on it and take the 65 for 65 challenge by doing riding, walking, biking, swimming, paddling, rollerblading, crocheting, or anything else you can think
Sorry,
of.
1 second, Kim. The PowerPoint just malfunctioned for 1 second.
Okay, I'll just keep talking and you can catch up with me.
Okay.
So basically, explore your passions, and you can do your activity anytime between today, which is June the 20th, World Refugee Day, and Thanksgiving Day, which is October 14th. So we encourage you to do your whatever challenge between now and the 14th of October. You can do it alone, you can do it in a group, or a bit of both. It's up to you. We will be planning a celebration as always on this year. It's looking like it's the October 31st, so we can maybe come in costume if we want. The Wild Ride is virtual. So you can do it on your own. You can do it as a group. Some people in parishes or churches have liked to do a small community event. Some folks have been known to include a restaurant visit or a picnic at the church. Totally up to you. The intention is to put the fun in fundraising. So right now, our priority is to recruit teams and participants because that is how a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign works. The more people that we have involved, the lighter the fundraising load on everyone. So if you basically invite your friends and family to join you, they can help with the fundraising. You can build some community, and most of all, it's a lot of fun. So the more people we have, the more fun it can be. So we have some incentives again this year, a little bit different. So this year, anybody who raises $250 will receive a t-shirt. That is a bit of an increase from previous years. The difference this year is we're making sure to source basically ethically sourced or ethically produced t-shirts. They will be long sleeve shirts this year. And when you when you buy ethically produced t-shirts, they cost a little bit more than fast fashion. So we have upped the incentive a little bit on that one. So $250 to receive a t-shirt. If you raise $500, we have a water bottle. It's a aluminum kind of metal water bottle. And the first 10 people to raise $1,000 will receive a hoodie. Last year we had a draw for 3 hoodies. This year we're going to go with the first 10 people to raise $1,000 will receive a hoodie. Just a bit of a note when we talk about registration and the t-shirts, there is a question on the form that asks you to give us your t-shirt size. If you say NA or you don't fill that in, we assume you mean you don't want a t-shirt. So please do be sure to complete the form accordingly. Okay, so you're not in it alone. We're certainly going to be walking with you the whole way. So we will provide regular emails and updates with stories about our work with and the partners' work with refugees and internally displaced people. You will receive emails from me kind of with a few tips and tricks for fundraising and a little bit of cheerleading and answers to some questions that come up along the way. I and our team are available to answer questions as they come up. Sometimes there's some technical issues with registering and whatnot. We're here to help. In addition to myself, Jacqueline, Tingle, Janice, Anselm, and Chanel are available to assist. Anselm and Chanel are the folks that'll be helping with any questions related to donations and offline donations and such things. Of course, Janice and Jacqueline have already been helping with people's participant pages and social media and stories. And I will try and troubleshoot whatever comes along and offer kind of words of encouragement along the way. So it should be a lot of fun together. So to get started, we invite you to go to pwrdf.org/wild-ride. The page you can access from our homepage. Janice will show you that later in the webinar. You can create a team. If you are, say, from a church or a community group and you want to have others join you, you can create a team. You can join a team, so you can do a search on the teams that are available and join one of the teams, or you can do it as an individual. It's entirely up to you. You will be asked to enter your email and password and create a Canada Helps account, and then follow the steps to register. Then we ask you to basically customize your fundraising page to let us know what you're going to be doing as your Wild Ride Challenge, and get started with fundraising. We do ask, one of the things that Jacqueline and Janice are talking about is doing a little bit of maybe clips to highlight some of the teams or some of the activities that folks are doing. So if you let me know what you do plan to do, I will connect with Janice and Jacqueline to perhaps give you a little bit of extra promotion through some video clips or interviews. So if you want to learn more, let me know. And then just enjoy the wildest wild ride. So I'm going to turn it back over to Suzanne now to introduce Naba.
Thanks, Kim. And a welcome to our colleague Naba Gurung. As PWRDF's Humanitarian Response Coordinator, Naba Gurung routinely works with partners supporting refugees and internally displaced persons, or IDPs. He was born and raised in Nepal, where he first worked as a conservation officer in the Annapurna Conservation Area project, mobilizing local communities for integrated conservation and development initiatives. Naba holds a Master of Science degree from the Center for International Environment and Development Studies of the Norwegian University of Life Sciences, and he joined PWRDF in 2002. Naba lives in Toronto with his wife and 2 children. Over to you, Naba.
Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you everyone for joining the webinar today. The last 22 years with PWRDF has been a fulfilling journey, but at the same time, I'm starting my presentation today with grim data, the world statistics, where we have more than 120 million people who have been living as displaced people away from their families and homes and immediate communities. And there's more than 3 times Canada's total population. About half of them are, majority are actually internally displaced within their country, within the border of their political boundaries. but living like a refugee is still away from the familiar communities where they belong. Others are refugees who by international standard are recognized as those who seek international protection. Yet others are asylum seekers whose application to be recognized as refugees are pending. There are around 7 million such people today, and every year the numbers are growing. So by every year, 1 million such people, such asylum seekers are growing in today's world. Some of them are returnees, and we think sometimes returning is a good thing, which is also good, but sometimes the returnees are not so much voluntary. Others are stateless. You may have heard about Rohingya people in Myanmar, also known as Burma, who are denied their citizenship within their own countries, and others who are children, young people who are trafficked, victims of trafficking. So next slide, please, Dennis. As Kim mentioned, today later you'll hear about our PWRDF's partnership work with the Diocese of Jerusalem in Gaza, but also in West Bank. In the recent years, PWRDF partnered with organizations responding to this crisis in Yemen, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, and Iraq. So the Middle East has been one of the hottest spots of displacement. I'll go to the next slide. Talk a little bit about Ethiopia, not so much in the news, but the crisis there is also huge. The country has over 4 million of internally displaced persons. It hosts over 1 million refugees from the neighboring countries. So refugees are, a high majority of refugees are hosted in the neighboring countries. So in Ethiopia, for example, they are hosting refugees from South Sudan, from Somalia, from Sudan recently, and then also from Eritrea. And one of the responses for PWRDF has been people displaced by the war in Tigray region, which took place over the last over the 2 years of from 2020 to 2022, which killed over 600,000 people, displaced millions, caused rape and massacre of all kinds of horrifying things happened during this war, and although there has been peace agreement, the impact has remained. And just last year there were people who died out of starvation as well. The government downplayed because it's party in the conflict, but humanitarian agencies know that there had been famine in the Tigray region. Next slide, Janice. So in Ethiopia, the most recent response from PWRDF was in partnership with Lutheran World Federation. They have an office in Addis Ababa, but also in Mekelle and in the IDP site called Mayuni. So the project is focusing on child protection and also provide livelihood opportunities for their care to their caregivers. The 2023 project ended, and then the 2024 project has started with the same level of contribution, focusing on the same project participants, both children and their caregivers. Next slide, Janice. So from 2023, you would see this in the annual report as well. The result has been More than 1,200 children and adolescents have had safe space to play indoor, outdoor, and also to learn reading and writing. Most vulnerable 200 children had daily feeding in the safe space. And then over 6,000 community members and children will reach out for with a campaign with a message about child protection and the importance of mitigating gender-based violence. And then 100 caregivers were given trainings, mentorship, and startup capital to initiate micro enterprises. It's like setting up tea and coffee shop, food vendoring, retails, handicrafts like that. Next slide, Janice. So there's, in a sense, Ethiopia. You will have more information on the annual report again, and also as those of you who were in the previous Wild Ride launching event, I talked at length about PWRDF's accompaniment with the refugees, the internally displaced people, the host communities, returnees, and even engagement with the diaspora communities here, with those from South Sudan. So I won't go into length today. What I'll repeat, what I'll just highlight is that PWRDF just wrap up 2 projects, one in Ye with the returnees and host communities. The Ye is, most of the returnees came from the refugee camps in Uganda. And then the other is in Fangak, in the area called Malakal, near that area, with the returnee host communities and returnees from Sudan as well. The partner there is Finchurch Aid, and we're starting new project in the area called Pibor, just near Ethiopian border. And there's also Episcopal Church of South Sudan, and they have an internal province called Northern Bari Ghazal internal province in the area called Awel and Wow, in those areas in the northwest. And they have set up Justice and Peace Commission within that internal province. So last year's support was 16,000. With that, they did a lot of grassroots level peace building and healing workshops for the community leaders, and the same level of support continues this year as well. And in Juba capital, there's Episcopal a sister organization called Shudra, South Sudanese Relief and Development Agency, which is a relief and development arm of the Episcopal Church of South Sudan, to assist them in their governance and financial management and safeguarding policies and guidelines, together with Anglican Alliance and ERD, Episcopal Relief and Development, our sister organization in the US. We have arranged to have 3 accompaniers, one from Mozambique, one from Kenya, and one from the UK, who would work with them, their staff and management and board, to strengthen their internal protocols. So that's currently happening. In the past, we have worked with South Sudanese refugees in Uganda, in Kenya, Ethiopia, and in Egypt as well. So South Sudan had been a very deep engagement for PWRDF. Next slide, Janice. Ukraine response continues with the partner ACT Alliance, specifically Hungarian Interchurch Aid. They work inside Ukraine, but also in Hungary, maybe somewhere here. And then there are 3 Ukrainian partners working with children and youth and people with disabilities. The focus has been mostly with psychosocial care and healing. Next slide, Janice. And then most of you heard us me talking about the partnership in the Nyarugusu refugee camp in Tanzania. The camp hosts around 150,000 people. Most of them are living their entire life there, mostly from Congo, but also from Burundi and other countries. So a 3-year project there where the refugee extension workers and lead farmers have been growing vegetables, fruits, and other trees, and training also others in 5 multi-purpose nurseries within the camp. And the next 3 years is about to begin. This is also in partnership with the Canadian Food Grains Bank. So you'll hear more about this accompaniment, this partnership later as well. So I'm just giving you the highlight here. I think I will stop. I think I've been assigned just 10 minutes today, so I might stop here. So all I want to say is that it sounds daunting, but with these are very knowledgeable and resilient people that we work with. So with in most of the cases, around 90% people, staff employed are refugees themselves, who do the design, who do the monitoring, and who do the extension work in their own communities. Somebody says, I was listening to one spiritual thing and they say, okay, the lotus flower comes out of the field, and I think that's possible in our work as well. So I recognize and appreciate your working together and solidarity with the displaced people around the world. Today is also World Refugee Day, and it says solidarity with the refugees. And I think we are doing the right thing here. And more importantly, you are doing the right thing here by joining today's workshop webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Naba. We're now going to watch a video, and as Kim mentioned, Joel was unable to be with us today because this week are the holy days of Eid al-Adha being observed in the Muslim world, and as Joel lives in Jordan, he's on vacation, and his office is closed. But in late May, we recorded Joel and Naba in conversation, and the following video is an edited version of that discussion, but I'll just introduce Joel briefly. Some of you may have heard him speaking with us as a reflector at Praying with PWRDF about a year and a half ago. He is the Anglican Alliance's regional facilitator for the Middle East, working in the provinces of Alexandria and Jerusalem in the Middle East. Joel has lived and worked in the region with his wife Fiona since 2015. He was accepted as an ordinand in the Diocese of Jerusalem in 2022 and will begin a residential training in the UK this autumn before returning to the Diocese of Jerusalem in 2026. And just a little bit of information, that diocese, although it's called the Diocese of Jerusalem, covers Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, and Israel. So we think we've got big dioceses. The Diocese of Jordan is very big, or the Diocese of Jerusalem. Joel has worked alongside PWRDF through the Anglican Working Group on Migration, where he brings perspectives and experiences of the responses of Anglican churches throughout the Gulf region. His other work is focused on creation care and church and community transformation. And Joel and Fiona live in Amman, Jordan, with their 2 children, Aiden and Nora. And so I'll invite Janice to play the video. If you can describe what displacement looks like currently in Gaza and the West Bank. And again, maybe I'll start with you, Joel.
Thanks. I think the level of displacement is really just unfathomable as a percentage of the population. Before the 7th of October, the population of Gaza was somewhere around 2.3 million. And the level of destruction we've seen and the instability and the lack of safety has meant people have been on the move, displaced multiple times. We've heard stories of people who've moved 7 or 8 times, sometimes returning to homes that have been damaged and destroyed and otherwise in normal circumstances would be considered unlivable, but are becoming the only realistic opportunity for somewhere that's vaguely safe. And there's, not really any safe places in Gaza, I think it's fair to say at this point in time, but somewhere that at least has walls and may have a roof. Gaza has sort of 5 governorates. Northern Gaza and Gaza are north of the Wadi Gaza River. And very early on, with the ground invasion, that became a place where many, many hundreds of thousands of people were displaced from, moving south into places like Deir al-Balah and Khan Yunis and then Rafah. And ultimately, in the spring of this year, it's believed that over 1.5 million, maybe as many as 1.8 million people have moved south into the Rafah area, the most southern governorate of Gaza on the Egyptian border. And that was relatively untouched by the destruction that we'd seen in Gaza City, in Khan Yunis, in Deir al-Balah, until the last couple of weeks, really. And that's speaking in late May, that we've seen the ground invasion now in Rafah, and many of those millions of people there that were displaced originally from the north or from the central areas have now moved again. And we have a case in point with our own work there, in that we have a hospital called Al-Ahli, which is in Gaza City. Through the displacement of medical staff, we'd established a medical center in Rafah, which was operating just as a clinic. It had a pharmacy, it was basic healthcare. It wasn't offering the full range of medical services that's still being offered in Al-Ahli Hospital, which is still functioning in Gaza City, remarkably, and it's a real testament to the work of the diocese. We'll come to it later, I'm sure. But in recent days, that work that had been happening in Rafah has been displaced itself. So our clinic has moved. It was always designed that we'd be able to be mobile with it, and that's now operating in a Khan Yunis. So, I think even at that level of provision of services, people have been displaced multiple times.
And has there been any significant displacement in the West Bank, or what's the situation there?
I think it's a more complex situation. I think it's really important that when we think about the situation in Israel and Palestine, we do think about displacement as a whole. And that also means thinking about Lebanon. So I'll just mention that briefly. About 93,000 people in southern Lebanon have been displaced by the back and forth fire between Hezbollah and the IDF. And similarly, probably about 100,000 Israelis have been displaced by fighting, not just around Gaza, but also in the northern parts of Israel. So displacement is affecting many of the communities. It's not just one community. In the West Bank, I think many of the effects we're seeing initially are economic. And I think we've seen very serious incursions into several of the Palestinian cities, particularly Jenin in the north of the West Bank, but also in Nablus, Ramallah. Last night, the main vegetable market was set on fire during an incursion by the IDF there. It hasn't, as I've seen and I've heard, led to mass displacement of populations through this level of fighting. There's been over 500 people killed in the West Bank since the 7th of October, many of those in Jenin and in Nablus, particularly in some of the refugee camps. The actual circumstances of displacement at the minute are low, but the living conditions are very poor. Economically, we're not seeing any pilgrims coming through at the moment. We're not seeing tourists coming through. And it's not just the Christian community, it's the whole community in Palestine that really relies on tourism to live well, and that's disappeared. And then for those who are often employed in the Israeli economic sector, whether in factories or in construction, have lost their work permits. Not all of them, obviously, but large numbers of them overnight since the 7th of October. So the economic situation is bad. And those with the ability to consider leaving, I think, are beginning to think about it. And we've heard anecdotally from several of those in the diocese, that those with enough money to sort of look at where might be a better place to live, places like Cyprus, are being considered as kind of places to escape to, because the opportunities they perceive are dwindling.
Yeah, yeah. And just to remind our viewers that the IDF are the Israeli Defense Forces, the Israeli military, essentially. How then, Joel, has the Anglican Alliance responded to the crisis in Gaza and the West Bank in partnership with the Diocese of Jerusalem? And maybe just before you describe that, if you could just say a couple of sentences about what the Anglican Alliance is.
Sure. So the Anglican Alliance is the development, relief, and advocacy wing, though we're an independent body of the Anglican Communion. So we've been operating in many ways sort of birthed out of the Lambeth Conference back in 2008, and going since then. And so we have this specific focus on development, relief, and advocacy, connecting and equipping and inspiring the Anglican Church throughout the world. So wherever the Church is, we as the Anglican Alliance are accompaniers of that. We've often described ourselves as midwives of hope, in that we're there to go alongside the Church. We're not birthing something ourselves. We're there to support the Church as it creates situations of and we have specific focuses around people on the move, around creation care, around asset-based community development, several other issues as well. And we work through regional facilitators. So I'm the regional facilitator for the Middle East, and we have equivalent people, in the Pacific or in Southeast Asia, or Latin America or Caribbean, for example. And then with a small secretariat based in London at the Anglican Communion office there. So one of the ways we often operate as the Anglican Alliance is when there is an emergency, we kind of try and convene Anglican partners from throughout the world and sort of say, what's the need? How can we respond? And I think very much see the fact that the Church has often been doing things. It often has the capacity to do things, but it can be incredibly overwhelming when an emergency happens. Churches are not NGOs. They don't have vast numbers of staff, and they often don't have the capacity just to employ more people because of both cost, trust, knowledge, experience, etc. So after the 7th of October, we started looking at as Anglican Alliance, what was the need, started speaking with the Diocese of Jerusalem about what might be helpful. And we'd not done an emergency response or an emergency appeal as the Anglican Alliance with the Diocese of Jerusalem previously. This was our first time working together in a serious fundraising way. We've done little bits and pieces. This is a major appeal. And so we've gathered, I think, about 8 organizations at this stage who would otherwise individually wanted to have supported the diocese, and PWRDF would have been one of them. And in one way, it allows us to coordinate, to make sure the scope of the work that's being done is greater. But also it reduces the load on the diocesan staff that are producing the reports, doing the financial reporting side of things, the narrative reporting side of things. And instead of 8 reports to 8 different institutions, it's 1 report. And I think collaboration in this way is beneficial for the Church locally in terms of burnout, in terms of staff care, but also in terms of what we can do, because we can allocate greater amounts of money and see a greater amount of what's coming in. So with this appeal that we've done, we're about 4.5 months into the first 6-month first phase of the project, which we raised. And actually earlier today, and it's great to have Nava with us this morning, we started talking about phase 2. And I think in a different world, we would have been looking at a phase 2 that is about recovery, but we're really still in an emergency phase of this situation. And therefore, in many ways, the work that we've been doing so far will continue in that regard. Basically, and I think you've touched on this already, we want to make sure that we're funding the diocese's work both in Gaza and in the West Bank, I think recognizing that there's a need in both places. So I can talk a little bit about our institutions and how that's working, and hopefully, Nava, you can come in and speak, I think, more from the PWRDF perspective, how you're supporting it. So the Anglican Church in Gaza, as I mentioned, has the Al-Ahli Hospital, sometimes known as the Baptist Hospital, because for about 20 years the Baptists ran it. It was founded originally by Anglicans back in the 19th century, and it's operated continuously since then. And that's based in Gaza City itself. It's remained open through most of the conflict. It was struck by a rocket on the 17th of October. It's still not entirely clear where that rocket came from. I think know the bottom of it, but fundamentally what happened was many people were killed because a lot of over 500 people were sheltering in the courtyard of the hospital, and that's where the rocket hit. Many were killed in there. Since then, there's also been a temporary closure where many of the hospital staff were arrested. Almost all of the hospital staff were arrested and brought back ultimately and eventually, but many of them to the southern Gaza Strip rather than to Gaza City itself. But even through that, the hospital remained open with a very small amount of staff. And today, there's about 250 to 300 outpatients every day and about 120 to 150 inpatients, between 25 and 30 operations happening in the hospital every day. So I think it's a real testament to presence and continued help, support for those in real need, and without the funds fundamentally to pay for the operations, really very necessary at the moment. The hospital has been very fortunate that it has a water source of its own well underneath the hospital, and also photovoltaic solar panels on the roof. So it's always been able to generate an amount of electricity. Unfortunately, in one of the aid drops that you may have seen, one of them actually did land on our roof and damage some of the photovoltaic panels. But it is continuing to receive fuel, continuing to receive medication, and the World Food Programme and the WHO have both been UN agencies that have been able to reach and provide those resources there. And money still being able to be transferred to the hospital, and there's still a cash economy that is working there, which I think is remarkable. As I mentioned, there's this outreach now that's based in Khan Yunis, a very small clinic that's reaching around 120 people a day, approximately, in this sort of territory. More of a clinic. It's got pharmaceutical supplies, basic medical care that otherwise is difficult to access. And recently, the Princess Basma Center, which is based in Jerusalem, works mostly with children with developmental and physical difficulties, has employed 3 people in Gaza to work across the north and the south to support children particularly in need, and that's linked to Al-Ahli's work. And then in the West Bank, similarly, a lot of our institutional work is through medical care. We have St. Luke's Hospital in Nablus and the Penman Clinic in Zababde, which are providing more basic medical care, but medical care that's needed, including operations. And the money from this appeal is going directly to support individual operations for people in need there. One of the challenges we've seen is both access to hospitals is quite limited, and people are very concerned about their ability to afford medical care. There's no free medical care in the West Bank, but I think we've done a relatively good job of ensuring that St. Luke's can provide discounted or free medical care, and when people know that, they're more willing to make the efforts to travel in very difficult circumstances. There are checkpoints that are emerging every morning in new places, and sometimes ones set up by settlers rather than by the army itself. So I think that's been an amazing ministry. And then finally, I think just thinking economically, there is so much economic stress that people are not able to continue paying school fees. And I think one of the amazing things that the appeal has allowed us to do is keep schools open, keep the teachers employed, and ensure that people who otherwise were going to have to take their children out of education, in education, because we've been able to subsidize the fees for their costs. So that's kind of a short portrait of the medical and educational support that this appeal has provided so far.
Right. Now, but from PWRDF, how have we been responding, both participating in the Anglican Alliance initiative and in the relationship with the Diocese of Jerusalem?
Yes, Suzanne. So as Joel said, before Anglican Alliance convened this 8 partner from 5 countries coming together working and supporting alongside with the Diocese of Jerusalem. And then when this October 7, 2023 crisis began, even before the fundraising started here from the annual budget, PWRDF sent 30,000 in support of the hospital again. At that time, we didn't know the extent of displacement and damage, but fundraising began. And so when Anglican Alliance, being a part of the Anglican Alliance, throughout the world, we have been in touch with the Alliance, with Joel and Rachel, and so we joined this joint initiative. So this project, as Joel said, has raised around 450,000 US dollar for from the partners, and our contribution there is 175,000 Canadian, which is around 125,000 plus US, for the 6-month first phase of 6 months, which is coming to end soon. So as Joel mentioned, we've been meeting frequently to review the progress, to listen and to pray with the partners together. And then soon the diocese will come with a plan, concept note for the second phase, and we'll be again with Joel and Rachel from the Anglican Alliance, bringing us together, and also with the Diocese of Jerusalem. We'll review the plan, depending on the resources. Each one of us will make some commitments and work together again. So we hope to work for the next phase as well.
I'd like to end this conversation with asking each of you if you have a story of hope, of a person or a situation in the midst of this terrible crisis that is a sign of hope in the midst of it all. And maybe I'll start with you, Joel.
Thank you. I'll try and keep short, but there's 3 people I'd like to highlight. The first is Salson, who is the Programs Development Officer for the Diocese of Jerusalem. She is living the experience of a world transformed since the 7th of October as a Palestinian woman. Her niece, Layan Nasser, who has been in the press recently, is from our Anglican parish in Berzait. And she was administratively detained by the Israeli military in the springtime and is being held without charge. And we don't know when she's going to be released. So that's her daily reality. And, I think that's a very hard reality to live in. And yet she turns up every single day and works tirelessly and hopefully and optimistically. And I think, it's such a blessing to work alongside her in all that she's doing to make this possible. She's always so thankful for the Anglican Alliance and PWRDF and the other partners, very vocal in that. But she's also very vocal in her frustration, in her sadness. But I think she remains optimistic about the work that is being done. She sees the goodness of what it is and what it represents. And I think to keep carrying on despite the personal challenges she's facing, coming to and from work on a daily basis, I think is really a remarkable good. And then within the diocese, our Anglican Archbishop, Bassam Naum, is, I think, a figurehead of hope, because he sees this. He's been interviewed recently in many places, and says this has been an absolute tragedy as a moment in time, and he very openly mourns all of the loss of life that's happened, the continuing loss of life in Gaza for Palestinians, but also those lives lost in Israel, and yet sees that there is a moment of opportunity in this for a lasting solution with peace and justice. And he keeps talking about this. And I think the ability to do that, despite what we're seeing on a day-to-day basis, he was at Al-Ahli just days before the 7th of October, opening new facilities And I think to still see hope despite all of the damage and destruction that's happened is a remarkable thing. And I think that shepherding pastoral quality is something you absolutely need in a bishop at this time. He's really providing that. And then his good friend and our partner in the Latin Church, the Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa, I think is also just a true example of Christian witness. After hostages were taken, Israeli hostages were taken after the 7th of October, he immediately said, look, I'm willing to exchange my place for them. And I don't think anyone really took it seriously at the time. I think people thought, it's a nice thing to say, but, it's not helpful or whatever. But we had an amazing sight last week when I was checking my social media, and suddenly it was images of him in Gaza. He'd gone in to visit the Holy Family Church, the Catholic parish church there in Gaza City, and stayed for 4 nights with them. And I think that sense of presence and being present with the Palestinian Christians there was an amazing thing to do. So I think in him and in Archbishop Osam, we have the example of leaders who are, in a very non-anxious way, being shepherds of their flocks. And I think we have to be inspired by that. And I think my kind of call to you listening today is try and be that hope where you are. I think it's calling for a lasting ceasefire, not one that's just about the end of current hostilities, but that really looks to the future of a peace with justice that can be present. And we know that this time has been one where Islamophobia and anti-Semitism around the world has increased dramatically, and it's terrible to see on both sides. So where you exist in communities where you can, as Christians, bring people together rather than divide them, and offer love and Christian care in that space, I would just really encourage you to do that where you are, because I think we have some amazing examples of it in the Middle East, despite the difficulty of remaining in that position of saying, look, we believe in peace, we believe in hope, we believe in a future that is a shared vision for all the peoples that live in the land of the Holy One. And I think for me that it helps me to keep going with the work I'm doing, because it's inspiring to be around.
Thanks so much, Joel.
Yes, Suzanne, as Joel mentioned, Sultan has been my contact person at the diocese for many years now. And just a couple of weeks ago, through Joel, he shared an interim report for this current phase, and in there, I found this paragraph, which I'll read out to you. Reaching out to people in need, regardless of their religious, social, and racial state, isn't only one of the noblest deeds, but also has this slight yet amazing power of taking a person's despair and swept it gently into a gesture of hope. This effective glimpse of hope took over some tough situations. Your generous donations to hundreds of needy families didn't cover their entire needs, nor change their entire lives, but it helped them tremendously during some of the most difficult times that they were going through. So the project so far reached out to more than 1,500, I think, the families, and she's summarized this well in terms of the impact and hope. And along with the report, she shared some photos and 2 videos as well. And in that video, I saw children of the kindergarten doing painting, playing together, and that was remarkable. And then the St. George School, which is another institution being supported under this project, has this adolescents students, and they in the video they have seen them playing a little bit of volleyball, and they call football there. And I remember myself, like I love these 2 sports so much, and I played to being in the while doing in pre-university. So it was remarkable work that they have done there. So yeah, it's amazing work and the true testimony of resilience in Ahli Arab Hospital there by the staff. Thank you, Sudan.
Thank you both. A big thank you to Naba again and to Joel for sharing some hard information, but also some stories of hope from the heart. And I love that image that Joel shares of the Anglican Alliance being the midwives of hope in various places around the world. We're going to just take a few minutes for any questions for clarification. We will have more time at the end for more in-depth questions, but just before we move on to details about the wild ride, wanted to make sure if people had questions to be able to answer them. Just a couple of practical things, questions that were directed to me specifically. And I'll ask Janice if you could answer this one better than I could. Deborah was wondering about the availability of that video, and in whole or in part, because we did edit it. Janice, do you want to just say a word about how what we'll post to the YouTube channel?
Sure. Well, this whole webinar will be posted to the YouTube channel. And I mean, I can post just that interview separately if that's something that people think would be helpful. But otherwise, it will be part of this whole webinar.
Thanks.
And so you would just look on our YouTube channel, which if you go to our website and you scroll down to the bottom, you see the little social media icons. There's a little YouTube icon. You just click there and then you see all our videos.
And thanks, Janice. Karen Pitcock made a couple of comments in the chat, if others haven't seen them, appreciating all the efforts and of those of the Anglican Alliance with partners addressing the horrific reality which Joel describes, and giving thanks for PWRDF participating and raising our awareness of the compassionate responses. Jasmine asked a question, and I'm going to ask I'm going to try and say his name correctly. I'm going to ask Naba if he could answer Jasmine's question. Do we have a list of all our partners, the ones that have to do with refugee work specifically?
Yes, Suzanne, I'll you want me to say it, or maybe I can write it in the chat as well. So
both.
yeah, so in Tanzania, in the refugee camp, currently there's a Church World Service is the partner. In Ethiopia, the partner I mentioned was Lutheran World Federation, their country office, Ethiopia country office. In South Sudan, the current two partners are Finn Church Aid and Shudra, South Sudanese Development and Relief Agency of the Episcopal Church of South Sudan. In Ukraine, there are currently 4 partners. Hungarian Interchurch Aid as a member of the ACT Alliance, as one of the implementing agency of the ACT appeal for the last 3 years, 2 years plus, like entering to the 3rd year. And the 3 national partners, local partners, are Voices of Children Foundation, Gerello Foundation, again focusing on children and youth, and Fight for Right, focusing on people with disabilities. And in Gaza and West Bank, you heard the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem. So these are currently the 5 partners working with people on the move.
Thanks, Neba. And do you want to just mention who the members of the joint effort are working with the Alliance and with the Diocese of Jerusalem, the ACT Alliance members Anglican Alliance members who come together in that project?
Yeah, so Actually, so the Diocese of Jerusalem is the implementing partner. Anglican Alliance, the secretariat, and the regional facilitator, Joel, as a part of the alliance, is the convening body there. And then the 8. So it's a partnership of in fact, 10 organizations, 8 of them contributing financial resources, 1 of them doing the overall coordinating role, and then the Diocese of Jerusalem doing the planning, implementing, monitoring role. So the Diocese of Jerusalem has their healthcare and education institutions under them, and they could have been easily collapsed if the funding wasn't there. So their role has been vital. So it's the diocese, but within the diocese there are many institutions that they have been operating for years, and they would have simply been gone without this support. So from Australia, there are 2 organizations. From New Zealand, there are 2. I'll throw the name in the chat. From New Zealand, there are 2. From the UK, 2 plus Anglican Alliance, and then from the US, the Episcopal Relief and Development, our sister organization there. So 1 from US, 1 from Canada, from North America. So 2 from North America, 3 from the UK, 2 from Australia, 2 from New Zealand, and the diocese and their institutions, healthcare and education institutions. So it's a good collaborative effort there in Gaza and West Bank. Yeah,
Very much so. And as Joel pointed out, it's it's a response of scale because you've come together, which is really important.
Yeah.
I just noticed Joy asked about whether we could get that lovely quote that you offered from the staff person at the diocese. And Kim, is that something that we could get out when we send out the recording in the note that accompanies it, the recording of this session? In the note that accompanies it, could we add in that quote?
If I can get it from Neba, yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah. He's usually pretty good at sharing.
Yes, yeah.
We'll be
Since
okay.
he's read it someplace, it's clearly it exists, it's available. So yes, we can add
Great.
it into the mix. Yeah.
All right. I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. And I'm conscious of time. So I'm going to pass to Janice, who's going to walk us through sort of the registration and process and other pieces. And then we'll have a bit more Q&A. So if you have a burning question, just if you can hold it, we will get to it.
Thanks, Suzanne. Okay. I'm actually going to, oh wait, that's not right. Hold on, here we go. I'm actually going to kind of skip the registration and go to the next part because we've went through that at the end of Kim's presentation. And so you have to create an account on your Canada Helps, and many of you probably already have an account if you have participated in the ride before. So you probably know how to get to from your account to your fundraising page. So this is my fundraising page. And you'll have this same banner on the top of yours. I have created an individual page, but I am part of the PWRDF Peddlers staff team. Now, this is something I learned, so I'm excited to share with you that I had already set up my page, and then I realized, oh shoot, I want to be part of the staff page. I should have done that. And so I kind of futzed around and looked for how to do that and discovered that you can't, but I can help you, or Kim or Jacqueline, we can do that for you. So if for some reason you've set up an individual and a page and you now want to join somebody else's team, please just let us know. It's very simple for us to do, but it's something that has to be done at the admin level. So, but that was a big win for me when I figured that out. So, hence I share it with you. So, here is the my page, and I'm gonna just click on edit. I hope that oh, 8 6. Okay, so Everybody can see my password. No, you can't. Haha. I was, of course, all signed in, but I think it signed me out as I was. Okay. As tends to happen when you plan for a Zoom webinar. You have all these plans and then they all go up. So here's my page. I'm just going to go back and show you page that we were just at, and then I'm going to go to edit. And so this comes up as the URL, and this is really a very easy thing to share, but I'm going to show you something else too. But this, I want to make sure everybody is clear on how to share the link to their page, because I remember seeing in past years that that's people aren't 100% sure how to do that. So you can go to the details, and I've set my goal at $650 because of the 65 for 65. And this will all, you'll have information in here. We've provided this information, but then I added this part here. I hope you guys are seeing this. It's that way, hold on. Jacqueline, can you give me a thumbs up if this is visible?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, and so I added this in from the sort of boilerplate information that we've given. And so what I'm going to be doing is swimming 65 kilometers over the course of 4 months in order to raise $650. So this blurb here is what's going to go out when I copy this and send it out into an email for people who are probably going to sponsor me. So, okay, now then you go to images and videos. So I'm going to upload my image that I just have ready today. Hold on a second. Okay, there we go. So now you can see this nice video, and I'm going to go back, or picture to go back to my page. And that's, so then you'll have something personal that comes up in the, on that main page when people look. And so it's a good idea for you to do that. If you have a picture, that's how you do that. Let me just go back to the edit again, make sure there's nothing else here. And then donations. This is for you to track who has made donations to you. And there's also the area where you can add offline donations, which maybe Anselm will speak to after. That's if people give you cash or a check, then you can enter it in here so that your total will continue to go up. So let's just go back to view my page. So this is a really important part. So everybody's got their own page like this, and then it says share this page. So you got Facebook, Twitter or X, LinkedIn, email, or this little one here means to copy it. So that is really what Kim and I were talking about. It's kind of the easiest thing to do. So then you're going to click on that, and it's copied to the clipboard, and then you can go to an email and link it, paste the link into the email and say whatever you want to say to your friends, or you can put it on the Facebook post, and it will go right to your donate page. So you don't have to say go to pwrdf.org/wildride. That goes to the main page. This is what we want to help you do, is promote directly to your fundraising page, so that people know how to support you. That's kind of what I was, maybe I'll just take questions that are specific to sharing and trying to set up your own page, or anything at all. Joy, I see you say, is it new 65 for 65 Wild Ride logo available? Yes, it's already on that page. If you want it for something else, we'll put it, we'll make sure that it's somewhere accessible for you. There is a story, there was an e-blast that went out on, what's today? Today's Thursday. It went out on Monday. No, it went out on Tuesday. That included a flyer for people to print out and post in their church or wherever. And the logo was on that. I can add to the story that is in our news channel. I can add the just downloading the logo, or you could use the flyer.
And just a little clarification, Joy, since you were kind of first off the mark in setting up your page. Janice has updated the campaign page since, which I think populated your page now with the new logo.
Yeah,
And-
it should.
And it, what we've done is maintain the wild ride image part of the logo, but change the put your stamp on it. So it's a bit of a combination of those two pieces.
I noticed that somebody in the chat has asked what the 65 reference is.
Do
Yeah,
you
I
want
can.
to answer that, Janice?
Sure. So PWRDF turns 65 this year in October, and so really from our beginning, we have accompanied refugees in other parts of the world. It's just been part of the work that we have always been doing, and so this trying to raise $65,000 as to honor the 65-year commitment to accompaniment of refugees and displaced people. 65 or 65. Whose idea was that anyway? Somebody came up with that, spawned onto it. I'm pretty sure it
One
was
of those team effort things. Yeah, I think Suzanne started it and we just riffed off of that.
Karen notes, my idea now is to invite my friends to donate by saying I'm going to ride down the hill on my e-bike instead of driving to my village of 1,000 for daily mail and necessities. Sounds great.
Nice.
That's a good one. Yeah,
Practical.
for
Yeah.
sure. And speaking of that, so we're going to open it up now for any questions you have for Janice or Naba, or any of us. And but also if you've already if you've been thinking about what you want to do, or if you know what you're going to make your activity, we'd be very glad to know about that.
Can I just add one little piece before, so think about your ideas and your questions. I just wanted to follow on what Janice had pointed out about the donation page and tracking your offline donations. And so, yes, in order to keep your tally going, and when we check the campaign and how we're coming along, anything that you've entered in your offline donations on that Canada Helps page is important. There is a second step though. For offline donations, we track those at PWRDF and they're receipted at PWRDF. In order to do a tax receipt, we absolutely need to have the name and the mailing address of the person making the donation and the donation amount. And so we do have the offline donations form. You can download it from your participant page, I think, and I will send it out repeatedly. I think it's also linked to our story, but we do need to keep that and make sure that you send any of your offline donations to PWRDF. Do not send them to Canada Helps. And if you're telling your friends and family to make a check payable, make it to PWRDF.
Kim, I'll just jump in. I'm sharing the screen now with the Wild Ride homepage or our landing page. And if you click on the top to read the FAQ, the frequently asked questions, and scroll down, I hope it's there. Oh yeah, it's brand new. That's why we haven't added it, right, Anselm? Because we made it, we want to make it a fillable form
PDF, yeah.
on this page here, because it says, click the, what if my supporters do not want to donate online or provide an email address? You can track offline donations on the donations tab, as Kim was saying. So we will have the link here to that page that you can fill out and keep track of. So, and the other thing I was just going to say too is when Jasmine was asking about the list of partners, I put in the chat a link to our programs and partnership report for the last year. And so it's an 85-page document, but there is contents, mercifully, and so you can look and see it's divided up with emergency response and refugee response. So if you're interested, you can get a bit more detail there beyond what Nava listed. So
thanks, Janice. I noticed Louise has noted in the chat, our idea is to have a day of walks of awe based on Dasher Keltner's book, Awe, the New Science of Everyday Wonder and How It Can Transform Your Life.
Hmm.
You'll have to have 65 awes. Yeah.
Cool.
And Karen says, may seem little, but I'll have lived already 85 years in a couple of weeks on my coming July birthday. So that e-bike is
Wow.
you
Happy
should
birthday.
you should ask for $850 in donations from people. They're 85, that's right. Yeah.
Great.
Any other questions or plans? And now's your chance to ask those how do I sorts of questions in terms of
May I tell you my plan?
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so my church is having a readathon where people will get pledges to read X number of books in the months of August and September. And I actually got one of the local bookstores on hand with us,
Fantastic.
and they donated over $100 in prizes.
Oh, cool.
Terrific.
And they're promoting for us.
Right on.
That's great.
Awesome.
Thanks
So
for
just
sharing that.
on that note, just to reiterate what Kim had said, so I don't know if everybody's met Jacqueline Tingle. She's our new communications and marketing officer. And she and I will be wanting to hear as many of those stories. Yukon Betty, I got to see video of you like crocheting away, like just, close-up shots of your hands. Look at you go. Yeah. We really would love to be able to do some fun little video promotions with people, in the middle of doing some things, even reading. What's that like reading? Have a
a lot of bucks, 100 bucks.
their heads and their books would be so much fun. So so do keep that in mind. And you can reach myself or Jacqueline, and you can either do a little video or we can do a little Zoom video, or you can send photos and we can kind of make a little video out of photos. Yeah, so it's probably not going to be your 15 minutes of fame, but maybe 15 seconds.
And I think that might be a way to answer Marion's question there. Is there a way for us to learn about specific events that are going on in a specific diocese in Canada?
Yeah.
I think your thought, Janice,
Yeah.
is to try and get the word out about what people are doing. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know that there will be a list, but we gather what we have been told. So we'll try to.
Yeah, so what we try to do is in some of the emails that go out, we'll be featuring some ideas often. So I do, for those that register, I do something called Wild Ride Wednesday. And just basically answering questions that come up along the way, as well as highlighting some of the cool things that people are doing just to give some inspiration, as well as if you do actually go onto the campaign page and you click through to people's pages. And this is why it's important that you update your page so that if people are clicking through, then your ideas will shine through. So people will see that Janice's swim challenge is actually up and she's swimming. People haven't seen my run challenge yet because I have to go and update my page. So, but keep those up to date, and then we can snoop around and see what folks are up to.
Thanks. And Marion asks a follow-up question, Janice or Kim, is there stuff listed on the tab for Wild Ride on the website?
Well, I guess if you go to, well, actually, that's a really good point, Marion. If you go to the pwrdf.org/ here, let's just do that one more time. That is actually much makes a lot more sense. Sorry, just a second. Oh yeah, okay. So if you go to the homepage and you look at all these things, and you can see so you go to teams and you can see, oh, there's 4 teams. If you go to participants, you can see there are 10 people registered. So as people register, this will begin to populate more, and so you can click on each of these to find out. Hats for the gathering place is already got $55, and so then you'll be able to find out
That's a pretty cool one, actually. That's Deborah Gill, and she is crocheting heads and hat bands for the gathering place, which is a place in St. John's, Newfoundland, that helps out
very cool
folks who are kind of experiencing homelessness. So she's
That's
kind of
great.
covering 2 charities, like, so she's giving to needy folks as well as raising money for refugees and displaced people. So
Great.
that's pretty neat.
That is a better, an easier way, Marion, to
Yeah.
see where everything is. So,
Yeah.
and then the Archbishop Primate is doing a walk again, so you can click on her page. And so she says, this summer I'm joining the 3rd annual Wild Ride. The goal is to raise 65,000. Please join me as I plan to walk 200 kilometers between September 15th, which is her retirement date, and October 14th. Your donation will be my inspiration. So lovely. So that's definitely how you can, I mean, it's possible that there'll be other things happening that aren't on here, but hopefully people will be registering when they start to fundraise, and then we'll have a better sense of what people are doing.
Great. Thanks, Janice. Any other questions or comments? It's all clear as mud. Just that really important point, maybe to emphasize again, that Kim mentioned, is online donations will automatically go through Canada Helps. Offline, come to us. Don't send them to Canada Helps.
Yeah. Just one piece of question too, because I know you will, as you're going through your campaigns, and you'll get questions from your parishioners or your friends. If you are wondering about anything like that, whether it's offline donations, always best to ask first before making an assumption. I've had folks that have kind of given stride and sort of taken a chance, and we've had to go and redo some stuff. So no question is a stupid question, and certainly just do reach out if you're wondering, just so that we can avoid you any extra unnecessary challenges and extra work.
Having to go back to people for additional or different information.
Yeah.
Good.
Awesome.
Hearing no more questions, do be welcome to send questions our way anytime, as Kim said. But I'm wondering then if we should wrap up, and we're even a few minutes early, which is always a good thing.
Yep.
And Janice, I think you're going to share our closing prayer.
I am indeed. Sorry, just give me, oh, there it is.
Let us pray. God of hope, in an ever more connected world, you call us together in acts of caring, and you call us to uphold the dignity of every human being by transforming structures that deny that dignity. Child of peace, you invite us into friendship with you, you who are present in vulnerable and marginalized communities in Canada and throughout the world. You challenge us to recommit and rededicate ourselves to ensuring their agency and to making the whole world safe. Spirit of love, you speak to us through the smiling faces of our partners, whose generosity of reflective, focused, and mindful caring calls forth our own generosity as we share food, share health, share our lives. God, child, spirit, in this pandemic time, hold us, the people and partners of PWRDF, in your loving embrace, and walk with us as we continue on the journey towards a truly just, healthy, and peaceful world. Amen.